Hey, do you like Dungeons and Dragons?
Doesn't everybody like Dungeons and Dragons?
Not everyone.
Yeah, I guess not. But the cool ones do, right?
Oh, yeah, and if you're one of the cool ones, then you should check out the Nerd Cult's D&D podcast, Tales from the Crits. On it, I, Josh Forster, weave a story that my friends Tyler, Aaron, and Matt hack, slash, blast, and sometimes trip and stumble through. It's available for our $3 patrons on our Patreon page, patreon.com/thenerdcult, a full month before anyone else.
And for those patrons, you also get a lot of other cool stuff, like videos, our extra episodes from the in-between, and access to polls that let you help us run the show.
So check out our Tales from the Crits on our Patreon page and at nerdcultpodcast.com.
I rolled a 1. Hello there, followers. Welcome to the Nerd Cult, a not-so-secret society dedicated to all things nerdy. As usual, I am normally one-third your host, Tyler Lee, but this time I'm fully your host. And returning for his second round of interviews is Chris Lock, lead designer of The Retroverse. Chris, how are you doing?
I am doing quite well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's good to have a celebrity on here every now and then. So,
yeah, celebrity, right? Okay.
You know, we joke, but I don't know how we decide. You have a lot of followers on Twitter. Maybe that's just how we'll gauge it.
Yeah, that's, the thing I'm making has gotten a lot more attention, and that's awesome. But
yep.
I don't know. I think we talked about this a little bit already, but like the whole famous thing or celebrity thing, it's like I don't really know how to take all that. You know what I mean? Like it's really cool that a lot of people have taken interest in this, but I'm not quite sure famous or whatever is the right descriptor. We're just having some fun, I think.
Well, if maybe not famous, but I guarantee just from my interactions with at least the fans of the tabletop gaming industry is you have made a lot of people happy. I will say that. And you've got a lot of people excited. And of course, listeners, we are talking about the Retroverse.
Yeah. My favorite subject.
The favorite subject. It's the only subject you've probably talked about for the past several months with people.
Yeah, it's a beautiful nightmare that I've created for myself.
Yep. Listeners might remember last time you were setting up shop, getting ready to get stuff rolling. It's been a few months, and would you say stuff is rolling now?
Stuff is sort of barreling forward faster than I can keep up with it, actually. Yeah, it's rolling. I started pushing this snow down the hill, and now it's planet size. It's ridiculous. It's super cool, but yeah, things have gone way further than I could have ever imagined them going.
Well, actually, I think that's a good way. That's a good way to start off this interview. So let me ask you this: how far since the last time? How far have you come since your last interview on the Nerd Cult?
So when the first interview, we had a bunch of stuff written, and a bunch of stuff was just like in its like pre-testing phase, where I had written things down and had tried to make the language good and everything. But then I've made 3 or 4 more passes at it to make sure that it's really nice and reads pretty well. But there's already a few bugs that people have found in the stuff that I have released, so that's fun. But is what it is. That's why we test all of this. But I think we've got a website going now. I'm not sure we had that last time, and we've got a bunch of email subscribers now, and we're like, as of this recording, just a few days away from the Kickstarter launch. So that's fun and horrifying in its own way.
Yeah, I bet.
That's its own special breed of terrifying. That something I definitely wasn't prepared for was like having a panic attack over this stuff for no real reason, but definitely having one. So that was a terrible experience I don't want to go through again.
Well, hey, if you're getting into this big creator game, and if and when the Retroverse takes off, don't you worry. I'm sure there's plenty more panic attacks to be had in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's been pretty cool because we've also gained a bunch of, I guess, notoriety. A lot of people have started to notice it. I think when we first got together for the first interview, I was sitting at like 700 something followers or something like that, which was more than I ever thought I'd have in my life, and now I've basically tripled that, which is not like the biggest number in the world, but for me it's insane. I never thought we'd get there. We're getting fan art now for the Retroverse, which is another cool thing that I never thought would happen.
Can we fan art is, as a person who is written a book and is going to write more and stuff like that, fan art is, let's be honest, fan art is all you really want out of life.
Yeah,
I mean,
right? I could kind of die happy now.
It's the pinnacle. It's your creative thing has inspired other people to, for no payment whatsoever, make creative things from your vision. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a really cool thing to have happened. So I feel kind of bad when I'm like, yeah, I had a panic attack, but then also people are making this amazing art for the stuff. So it's like this weird double-edged sword where it's like super crazy cool, but it's also it's also very terrifying because there's a lot of people to let down at this point. But I don't plan on doing that. But then there's always that voice right in the back of your head that says, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, my brain is a horrible, horrible person. It's very mean to me, so yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Get that a lot.
You're always your own worst critic.
Mm-hmm. That actually brings me to my next question, which I think will be a fun one for us. Did you expect such a following to crop up for the Retroverse? Because
no.
Boy, howdy, has it.
No, I absolutely did not. I thought, so in his original incarnation, Luis and I he was going to make some cool art, and I was going to write a couple classes, and we were going to release maybe like 100 pages worth of stuff on the DM's Guild or something like that. And that's where we started with it. And we were just going to split whatever it made, if it made anything, and call it good. Maybe we'll make some more stuff after that. But it has grown. Not only has like the following grown, but the more people are interested in it, like the bigger the project sort of becomes. I've got a place where I want it to be for like the Kickstarter, and I've cut it to where it's like, it's going to be this. Nothing else is going to get added. We're not going to do any feature creep. Like, this is going to be the product that we're going to make. And if we want to make stuff later, we can, if people like it. If people are down on the Kickstarter, we'll make some more stuff beyond that and make Lasers and Liches like a legitimate company that can stand alongside like Kobold Press or something like that. But yeah, it started as sort of a real small thing, and now it's way bigger than I intended, which is fine. We've got some really cool stuff, and it's actually getting to the point where we can make something that we're really happy to release to people, because it's not just here's a class. And the preview thing that I released, I mean, that's kind of what we were going for our first thing, and we were just going to give people something similar to that, a little bit more than that, and that was going to be it. But now, the more, like I say, the more people that get interested in it, the more people are asking about it, and the more people tell other people about it, the bigger just everything grows to the point where we can actually start thinking about some future projects, because it looks like I'm pretty confident at this point that we'll probably be funded.
I
think so.
Have this feeling that I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I'm not trying to jinx anything, but I have to, as a podcaster, I try and keep my ear to the ground. And the Retroverse is on a lot of people's tongues. It's on a lot of people's minds. I definitely think it'll get funded.
I'm pretty sure it is, but we don't want to just stop there, because printing books is kind of expensive. So, it's and that's, we want to print books. We don't want to just like make a PDF and that's fine. No, we want to make like a physical book you can hold in your hand, a couple of them. So getting to that point, like that's going to be our first major funding hurdle. But I feel like we'll get past that. But then after that, it's just like everything we get after that, most of the stretch goals at first are just like, all right, well, we're going to double the content that we were going to put in here. So instead of 6 classes, it's like, here's 10 or here's 12 classes. Instead of 4 races, here's 8 races.
Jesus.
And yeah, there's a lot to do for sure. We have a lot of work on our hands, but I feel like that preview that we released definitely helped to build the confidence in people that we can do this, that it's not just some crazy pipe dream that like, no, here's just one we've done. We can do this several more times. It's not some sort of unattainable goal. We also have some stretch goals for like dice, and I think we're gonna make like a Retroverse album. It seems like that's probably gonna happen too.
And you're gonna get way too much of my money. That's beside the point. Well, because it's not just, you mentioned dice and an album, and it's not just tabletop gaming and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, I like goodies.
Yeah,
because who doesn't like goodies and dice? Like, I can never have enough dice.
Yeah. We've talked with some people, and I feel like we've got a pretty good idea on what it's going to take to get some Retroverse exclusive dice. And based on what we have come up with, they're going to look badass. They're going to be really cool.
Nice. You mentioned just a few seconds ago. You mentioned how you're kind of proving that this is a thing that you could do. Like, you don't have to be like big famous like company or anything to do this. Like, this is something that you can get started as long as you want to, as long as you have the drive for it. And I feel like that's probably one of my favorite things about this, actually, is because I've always been a big supporter of, if you're a creative person with creative things, get it out there.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And it's unnerving. It's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
But that's one thing I really like about the Retroverse, is I feel like you guys are showing people. It's like, hey, if you have something, do it. Look, we did it.
Just literally pull the that meme and just do it.
Yeah.
Like, just sit down, spend some, and it's hard. I think we talked about this a little bit last time that we did the recording, or I did this in another podcast at least, where we just talked about just sit down and just do it. Like, even if you can only write like a couple sentences a night or something like that, at least you made something. Don't stop, sit down, make it happen. I don't care if you're exhausted. I don't care if you've had a rough day at work, because you got things to do. And if you really want to get your stuff out there, all you have to do is just do it.
Sitting down and starting is the hardest part. If you just force yourself to sit down and start typing, you got it. You did it. Yeah. And you'll go for however long.
Turn off Twitter, turn off Facebook, get off YouTube, and just like put just the text document. If you want to have some music going, go for it, but don't spend 45 minutes trying to pick the best playlist. Just
that's one of my problems.
Yeah, I know, right? I do the
same
thing.
They used to be one of my problems, and then I finally did it. I created a playlist that's just called Writing, and I don't even look at anything else anymore when I sit down. I'm just like, no, it's this one right here. I don't even care.
Yeah.
It's just that one.
I have a Pandora playlist that's basically the greatest hits from the 70s and 80s plus a bunch of synthwave music. And so I just turned that on.
Get you in the Retroverse mood.
It definitely does. I can't tell you how much stuff I've written to Journey's music or Carpenter Brut.
That's just good. That's just good life, right there.
Yeah, right. It's good music. It's like that's stuff I would normally listen to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, you're right. One of the things we'd like to show people is that you can do this. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not something that was easy to do. We've come a really long way in about 6 months, and I've spent way too many mornings or way too many nights where I look at the clock. It's like, oh, it's 2 a.m. and I've been writing for 3 hours, and I've got to be at work at 6. So, oops.
It's when you have that realization. Oh, tomorrow's going to be fun. Tomorrow is going to be so fun at work.
Yeah, it's like, oh, today is going to be
Today's going to be great. 4 hours? 4 hours is going to be great at work.
Yeah.
In 4 hours.
and you balance that with, I had a newborn recently. He's going to turn 1 here in just a couple months.
Oh, congratulations.
And, yeah, thanks. He's his own sort of nightmare, a screaming pile of knees, one might call him sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But I love him, but he's beautiful. But like it's difficult. It's not something that has made this project any easier.
No.
Yeah, just like kids are tough. I love both of my children, and I would do anything for them. But gosh darn, man, sometimes it's really tough.
Yeah, especially, you had kids on top of balancing your creative side with, and when your creative side is not your full-time job, you have to have the full-time job so you can do your creative stuff. It's a balancing act.
Yeah, I used to not drink coffee, and now I drink a lot of coffee.
Oh, I feel like I don't drink coffee, but man, I feel like I'm getting close.
Yeah, you get to that point. I'm not sure if it's this project or if I'm just getting old, and now it's coffee time.
Oh, I'm going on 29 years of no coffee, and it's just, I feel like it's calling to me every time I'm a little bit more tired from writing, or I'm a little bit more tired from podcasting and editing. It's just like, oh, everybody else does it.
Yeah.
Clearly it's magic.
I'll tell you, as someone who went about 26 years with no coffee, it's magic. It's straight magic.
It's just straight magic. I'm going to break down and buy one of those little like portable coffee pots, and I'm just going to stare at it and be like, all right, you have to help me now.
Yeah, you are now my magical cauldron.
You're the chosen one.
Give me the energy.
I paid $12 for you. Make me that magic elixir that makes everybody else able to do this.
Yeah.
Anyways, next question. We're gonna do a listener question.
Okay.
Got off Twitter. This is from Adam Choate. He's Adam, a longtime listener of the Nerd Cult. I'm pretty sure our number 1 fan. I'm pretty sure he's been there since the beginning. So good on you, Adam. He asks, what goes into making the making of lasers and liches? And then he prefaces with just a brief breakdown.
Man, that's a tough question. Get drunk and watch He-Man, and then write what you
writing this down.
Then write about that.
That's perfect. I have a magnet that says "Write drunk, edit sober," and I feel like that's what it is.
Basically, no. It's just we're taking there's a collective childhood that we all sort of have. There's a collective nostalgia for these things that even if we weren't around for all of them, people still enjoy. And I feel like there's a lot there to be mined that people just haven't mined. And it's easy to do things like, for example, Ready Player One. I haven't seen the movie, but the book, I listened to it on an audiobook with Will Wheaton, and that was amazing. The book itself
that would have made it better for me if Will Wheaton had narrated it instead of the person in my head.
Yeah, the book is sort of like a trashy pulp novel. It has problems, and one of the biggest problems is that it doesn't respect the things that you enjoyed. It just sort of lists them.
God, you finally said it. Okay.
Yeah.
You finally said it. I will say this, I enjoyed the book. I had the same problems with it that basically you're saying. It was just like, it was a fun read. It was pretty one-dimensional, but I read it for the references and stuff, and the references were really cool. But yeah. It doesn't talk about why they're important. Like,
yeah, and you can enjoy it from, I guess, I don't know, an academic standpoint, to see how much stuff they were able to cram into there. And it's fun. It's not the worst book that's ever been written, and people, I think, are a little extra harsh on it because it never intended. I don't think it ever intended to be the best book out there. It is exactly what it is, and what it is a fun, fine book. But again, like they don't respect the nostalgia. They just list it, and that's one of the things that I want to avoid so hard with the Retroverse. Is like, if we're going to make a reference to He-Man, we're going to make a reference that appreciates it and gives you some depth to it. It's not just going to be maybe we can have some window dressing that's like fun little references if we're naming, I think in the Cheezers, which is the first little test story that we're putting in the first test wave.
It's the best name ever.
Yeah, Drunky Cheesers is a fun place, but like on the menu, there's a couple references like 10,000 Gigawaffles and Die Ham and Die Ham 2 Ham Harder. Like, we can do stuff like that pretty easily, and that's fun. But then if we're gonna put like Drunky Cheesers is not just like, oh, we made a cheese or a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant and then put kobolds in it. I mean, we did do that, but we added a bunch more to make it this. We gave it a bunch of depth and some fun exploration for people to do, and hit a bunch of surprises in there. So it's not just like telling people, "Oh, you remember Chuck E. Cheese? Wasn't that awesome?" Because that would just be easy and cheap, and then we've got a trash game.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
There's nothing wrong with a little bit of pandering, but yeah, it definitely sounds like Lasers and Liches, and more so the Retroverse, cares about why these things are nostalgic and why people liked them and why people still go back to them.
Yeah, because I mean, He-Man was not a good show, but there's some cool stuff in there, and like someone holding a sword aloft, screaming "I have the power," and then getting super buff. Like, that's kind of neat, and that's, I think, part of the big draw of that show. It wasn't the animation, it wasn't necessarily the characters, because none of that was super great, but it was just like the appeal of just some of the underlying themes of He-Man. So instead of just being like, okay, here's He-Man's sword, it's like, okay, here's a sword, and we're going to make like a quest around it, and then maybe you go fight a Skeletor-like enemy, and there's a bunch of other stuff that we mix in there. This is just off the top of my head. I haven't actually designed anything like this. but that's sort of the direction that we would go. We would actually give you some fun stuff to explore instead of just being like, He-Man was cool, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Here's the thing that looks like He-Man.
Yeah. That's how we make the Retroverse, is we look at all the stuff from our childhood that we liked, and we just try to, like you say, like tell you why it's important. So like rebuild it, recraft it in a new light, and let people enjoy it for the real reasons that they enjoyed it, not for necessarily just to make a fun reference.
Nice. Definitely. And definitely it seems like that's the way, like, you guys are succeeding, is all I can say with that.
Awesome.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people would agree, and that was a good comparison to Ready Player One, actually, because that's kind of that is the perfect thing, and that's really my only problem with that, is just like, that's kind of what it is, and the Retroverse is much deeper than that.
That's what we're trying for. We're trying so hard to make it just deeper than that. Like I say, references are easy, and this isn't going to be easy.
Side topic, you said you hadn't seen the movie yet?
I haven't. I wanted to.
I went and saw the movie. It's better than the book. It's because Spielberg. It's still like, here are these references, and we're still not going to really explain why they're important. But Spielberg definitely gets a little bit more character development in there, so it's definitely it's a fun ride. Okay.
I would like to go see it. I was going to go see it the day that it came out, actually, but our plans just sort of fell through. And I don't know if you know, but I'm a very, very busy person at this point.
I hadn't noticed. Not at all.
I just haven't had the chance to be able to really go see it.
That's when you asked for the when you and I were talking about this interview. I was like, he's a glutton for punishment, I guess. All right. Not that it's like a hard-hitting interview, but it's just like, oh, okay, I guess he has time. Sure.
Well, I make time for this stuff like this because this is cool, and I have a lot of fun doing things like this. Like, talking to people about my baby is fun.
You put a lot of time into your creative stuff, and by God, you want to talk about it with people.
Yeah.
You don't just want to advertise it. You're like, I want to say things about it.
Yeah, let's discuss it on a more intellectual level, please. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of you being so busy, let's see if we can narrow this down here. What has been the hardest part about getting everything ready for the upcoming, dare I say, impending Kickstarter launch.
Oh my god, dude.
You're like, that's it. Chris just passed out, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we got. So
I think it was compiling the list was maybe the most difficult thing of seeing exactly what I needed to get done, because I wanted to have like the first test wave that we're going to send out to people as soon as the Kickstarter's done. I wanted to have that done by March, but before March, and I didn't quite hit that time frame, but we were real close. And so after that, it was making the list of, okay, what's next? What do I need to do? Okay, I need to set up an email subscriber list. Okay, I've got that done. I need to go talk to a tax guy about taxes. I need to go to a bank and talk about bank stuff.
Funnest parts of the whole thing.
Yeah, I have to make sure that I can set up like interviews and that sort of thing. I've got this big contest that I've got to do to make sure that like I can pull down as many followers and get as many eyes on the Retroverse as possible for the next 30 days. And that contest has ended, but I haven't picked the winners yet because I'm just really freaking busy. And it's going to be kind of expensive to ship everything out to everybody. So I want to get it when I have a little bit of, extra cash on the side to be able to do it. There's been a lot, and no one thing has been super difficult. Maybe editing the Kickstarter video and then like realizing that I am not a video editor. Like, I can do it, but I'm not very good at it.
Wow, relating to that really hard as a person who's recently started doing a little bit of video editing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a lot harder than it looks.
It's its own beast.
Yeah. So talking with people and getting I had a beautiful person who was able to make the video for me and make a much nicer one.
Yeah, props to you guys. That video was freaking sweet.
Yeah, it came out really well. So we were able to do that, and that was great. I don't know, man. I'm having trouble coming up with like the thing that was the hardest beyond just like sort of seeing where my inadequacies are and then trying my best to work around those. Because you want to believe that you can do everything, right? And
yeah, and you just
can't.
No one can.
Yeah. And it's like I can do a lot, and I've done a lot. I don't want to necessarily take anything away from the stuff that I have done because I've promoted this pretty well. It's got a lot of eyes on it now, so pat myself on the back for that one. But like video editing, no, I'm no good at that. Maybe a couple other like some back end legal stuff about NDAs and that sort of stuff. Like I got taken to town by somebody the other day, and they were able to help quite a bit, but like I made some serious rookie mistakes. And so you just being able to adjust to the things that you're no good at and realizing being able to take criticism and move forward from it instead of letting it like shut you down is I don't know if it's hard about this project. I think that's just hard in general as like a human being.
That's the biggest part. I feel like if you're in a position like you, or just in any kind of creative person, if you are comfortable enough to where, one, you can accept criticism, and two, you can ask for help in the areas that you are not skilled or as skilled in as somebody who could do it a lot better, I think you got it. I think you can do... That's where you're going to succeed. If you can do those two things, because as much as you want to do everything, you're not going to be able to do everything.
No, I can't do everything. And
you can do, and
it's
like
nice.
I said, you've done a lot. You've done a ton. Like no one's going to take that. That's some stuff I hope you're proud of, because no one can take that away from you. You've done a ton for this.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with where we are.
But yeah, being able to like realize, no, I'm not that good at this. Maybe I should get someone to help me with this. That's really where you can succeed. That's where you can really move that in. It sounds like there's not a hardest part. It just sounds like kind of everything on top of each other is just the hard part. Like,
yeah, getting through that list was the hardest part of like, here are the last things I need to do. And I've still got like 1 or 2 items, even though we're only a few days away, that I still need to complete. But for the most part, I think we've got the bare necessities, the essentials all taken care of. And I'm sure there's going to be, as soon as I hit that like, launch Kickstarter button, there is going to be 1,000 things that all break, and I'm going to have to spend the whole day just like, well, didn't know this was going to happen. It's going to be tons of fun fixing all that. But until then, I'm just going to sort of enjoy what I have.
Well, most people tend to forget when you're doing something creative like this. People forget that once it actually gets going, that's when the stuff that's not fun comes into play that you got to do. Like you said, setting up a Kickstarter, talking to banks, talking to lawyers. Doing all that stuff. That's when the
fulfillment centers and how much does shipping cost?
Yeah, that's when the non-creative stuff comes into play, and you have to do that stuff.
Yeah. So maybe it'll be so successful that I won't have to. I'll just hire somebody you do the boring things.
There you go. That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Is to be so successful that you can just do the creative stuff and you have somebody else to do everything else.
Yeah.
No. It's just like, all right, send me my book.
That's something I would like to talk about a little bit, is like the development process on the books and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gonna take some time, and I just hope people understand that. And I've tried to make sure that people do, and I've put it in the Kickstarter. Like, this is gonna take some time. It may take. We're shooting for under 2 years to have everything completely printed and out to people, but like we've got a ton to write. And we're going to be sending out test waves to people with stuff that's not even going to be in the full book eventually. Like, there's a full storyline for people to test out that's going to be like Kickstarter exclusive for a long time at least. So we're creating a ton of content, and we do not want to print the books until everything is golden, until we can look at this and say, this has been tested forwards and backwards 1,000 times, and it's perfect. So I hope people are... The hope with the test waves, and that we're sending out more content every couple months or every few months to people, is that it will keep them sort of placated and patient while we continue to finish the real book, and they get to play around with it and test stuff and have some fun in the Retroverse while we continue to work on it and make sure that we're making the best possible product possible.
I was going to ask if you wanted to kind of give a little breakdown of kind of what your Kickstarter schedule is going to kind of look like for donors and stuff. Like, what's the first thing that you're going to want to get like sent out, and then after that, what's the next step and stuff like that.
So we've got some. The first thing that's going to go out is the test waves. The first test wave.
It's Kickstarter preview right here, people.
Yeah, and that will go out basically within like a week of the Kickstarter ending, as long as we're funded and everything goes through right. Like, everyone over a certain level, because so testing the game is not going to be free, because we're sending you a ton of content and like an exclusive story. Like, by the time the test waves are done, you'll have essentially all you need to run the Retroverse stuff.
That is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, you'll have basically all of the content, and then people can have the books on top of that, or like the completed PDFs on top of all that if they'd like at higher levels. But one of the lowest level things we have is just to be a tester. Here, have some fun. And so that will be going out like immediately, and then we've got we have some Retroverse postcards that we're going to make, and nice. Those will probably be the second thing that goes out, and then there won't be anything for a while, because we're going to be working on the books, and it's going to take. I mean, it's for like any other material stretch goals, like the music, or like because we want to put it on actual cassette tapes. The music and the dice and all that stuff and the books, it's just going to take some time to make. So, and I'd like to ship that all together if at all possible. Probably the third thing that'll go out is if we can get that, if we hit the stretch goal where we start making a Retroverse album, we'll probably send out like the digital copies of that for people to enjoy. But even then, that's going to take a little while, because I'd like to have 10 to 12 tracks at least, depending on how many people are into it. And I've got several artists at this point who have said that they are down to make some music. So as long as we can reach the proper stretch goal and be able to pay them a fair rate for their songs, then that should happen before the books are finished.
Nice. Now, are your tiers going to be like from the beginning? Is it going to be like like typical Kickstarter? Like you pay this much, you get the test stuff. You pay this much, you get this. You pay this much, you get the books when the books are finished.
Yeah, basically.
But basically from the beginning, it'll be set up like this. It's like it'll be a while, but if you pay this much, here's where you can get a book.
Yeah,
like here's how you get a book.
It starts off with just the test waves, and then it moves up to like a PDF, and then it moves up to like physical books. And the physical books, it looks like we should be able to, if you buy the book, you'll get the PDF with it. Nice. Because I feel like that's kind of fair, a fair way to do that. And then above that, we have some cool surprises. I think the one that people, I'm hoping, go for the most is called the Retroverse Starter Kit. And it will get you both books, the PDFs, it will get you the test waves, and any material stretch goals that we hit. So if we hit the dice, you'll get the dice. If we hit the cassette tapes, you'll get the cassette tapes.
Very nice. Very nice. And that's just good marketing right there.
Yeah, it's like
the starter kit.
Everyone wants, I have a feeling that people will probably go for that one because that will have the most bang for your buck.
Friggin' worked for Wizards with their starter kit for 5e, so why not?
Okay, well, our starter kit's going to be more than $20 though, so...
Well, yeah, but also, I feel like it's a little bit different. This is a...
Yeah! Calling it a starter kit is maybe sort of a misnomer, because it's two books...
Wizards is also a multi-million-dollar company, so I think they could afford to charge $20.
And I'm just a dude in my underwear at the computer, so...
You're not there yet, Yeah. Just a dude in your underwear at the computer. You really need to have like your wife or someone take like a picture of that or something, and that's where you'd put where Gary Gygax would like put his picture or something on like the old ones, just like on the inside of the book.
Yeah, here's like me. I hope you like little piggies on your underpants because that's what we've got today.
Chris Lock, lead designer of the Retroverse.
Yeah.
You just have a surprised look on your face, like taking a picture. What?
There's 700 cups of water on my desk. Just notes everywhere.
That's on my desk. That's my desk. It's like there's some weird rubber band ball that's like halfway coming apart. There's like 3 coasters, and I recently cleaned off the desk. But when I was cleaning it off the other day, it's like, hey, 6 cans of Pepsi, 3 cups of water. No wonder I have no cups left in the cabinet. Also, a dice tower and dice.
For no real reason.
Because I forgot. Because this is where I also record the D&D podcast, Tales from the Crits. Listen to that. I'll just
subtle plug.
Just subtle plug for part of the same podcast.
Yeah.
Subtle plug. Go listen to that. Do you have any idea for... Obviously, you have an idea for like some stretch goals and stuff like that. How many stretch goals are you planning as of right now? Obviously, if it takes off like bigger than you ever expected, you just come up with more and more and more. But you said some of the stretch goals were dice and the album,
so like the established ones that we're definitely going to do is like dice and album. I've been talking with some other people about some potential like cross promotion stuff and getting some cool. Something I'd love to do is just have like a Retroverse like card set, not necessarily like a card game, but like I think of it like a mixture between like spell cards and collectible Pokemon cards.
That's nice.
Yeah, something along that lines where you can actually like buy foil packs if you'd like. There's no real reason to do that because you can just buy the complete set if you want. But just for the heck of it, we could include these just for people that want them.
It also plays into that Retroverse kind of feel, like the 80s and the 90s trading cards.
It would be a fun little like doodad that you could get. One of the biggest stretch goal we've got, and this is the pie in the sky ridiculousness, is I think it's 2 million something. It's $1 over what Matt Colville did, and I think we're just calling it like the high.
I heard you talking to I saw you talking about this.
the like high score. Retroverse. If we do that, I will create a Goranger, which is our like Power Ranger like class, a Goranger themed adventure with some new rules and stuff where you can combine your robots together and fight giant kaiju and stuff like that.
You have quite the head for marketing, because you could have picked a lot of stuff, but you picked the one thing that's like, I feel like this will get it. Because it's like, everything sounds really fun, and then you mention that, and it's like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want to, in D&D, who doesn't want to climb in their Zord and just mess some stuff up?
Absolutely. That would be, that's sort of our, I don't necessarily know that will happen. That would be super cool if it did. But Matt Colville has a gigantic following, and I'm not sure that we'll ever be able to hit that. But if we did, like, I put it out there, like, we'll release this as a PDF to a bunch of people that support the Kickstarter. So
hey, that's what you gotta do. You gotta put it out there. Hey,
yeah.
The Nerd Cult's Patreon says if we get like $10,000 a month from people, we'll start doing it full time. It ain't never gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, we got to shoot for the moon, right?
But by God, it's out there for people to know.
Yeah. So, if we can beat Matt Colville's high score, then we'll make a it's going to be nuts. Like, it's going to be way too crazy, and I'll probably die. But
you guys need
whatever.
You guys need that one rich, eccentric D&D fan backer who just wants. So we'll do that. And he'll be like, "Here's $2 million."
Yeah, here you go. All right, cool. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Executive Producer.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think one of our highest backer tiers is we just call it the God tier, and you are literally going to be a god within the Retroverse.
God, I want that. There's probably no way I can afford that.
We'll work with you to make your religious following and a bunch of tenets for your religion. You'll get featured in the book, and you'll also be an executive producer or something like that.
This is the best thing ever. That's so cool. It's just like you're one of the gods. It's like, well, it's like the cleric is like, what domain is he? Well, he's this person's domain.
Yeah, he's the domain of Jimmy John.
Yep.
All right, cool. What's Jimmy John all about? I don't know. Let's find out.
That's a good point. That's a good question. Let's find out what to do.
Seems like he's the god of sandwiches, which is real fun.
It's just like that's what your you shoot out, you hold up your holy symbol and it just shoots out a whole thing of sandwiches and just hits a bunch of people for 2d6 damage, just each sandwich.
Your magic missile is actually just a bunch of club sandwiches.
Just sandwiches. I'm writing this down for a future adventure I'm gonna run.
Okay, cool.
Just randomly, just like you shoot magic, or just something I'm gonna pull on people next time I'm DMing, and when somebody does magic missile, and I'm just gonna randomly roll a die for them to hear, and it's not gonna actually mean anything, and then I'm just gonna be like, you shoot sandwiches instead of magic. I don't know what.
Yeah, what's wrong with your magic?
What's wrong with your magic, dude? You guys should figure this out.
Ooh, that's a cool plot hook right there. You're shooting out sandwiches. Why?
You can have that. You can have that one. Speaking of Chris, I'm still waiting on that. I'm still waiting on that calendar. I want that.
Oh goodness, what calendar? I've forgotten. There's so many things.
No. This is, you said if the Retroverse takes off. I believe you and I were talking, and you said, how about a calendar, and it's a D&D plot hook for every day, because you put out so many of them.
Oh,
and it's just,
yeah.
And I think you were just joking, and you're like, how about a calendar? And I responded, and I go, it's not fun. I want it. You're laughing, but I would pay you for this. And you were like, let me do the Retroverse first.
I have been thinking about that. So anytime that I
took it to heart. I'm going to be reminding you about it.
Okay, cool. Do so. Because sometimes in the morning I'm like, all right, I have not prepared a plot hook for today. Because I'll try and go through and make 6 or 7 in one day so that I have them on the backlog, right? But sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and be like, I got nada. Oh, man. So I'll sit there while I'm eating breakfast for 15 minutes and just try to come up with whatever I can come up with. And I'll shoot it out there. And sometimes I'll think to myself, what if I just didn't do it today? And then my mind goes immediately to that calendar idea, and I'm like, well, then I wouldn't have 365 plot hooks. So
there you go.
I guess I have to do it today.
You've created that in your mind. Yep.
Yeah.
Those are the best times, is when you have nothing, and then just throughout the day. Mine all come to me while I'm at work, and I should be working.
Yeah.
And I'll just be typing stuff out, and then I'll just be sitting there. And I'll grab my phone and go to my notepad and be like, just type out some ridiculous like story thing, and I'll be like, this is good, this is great, and the story I'm writing, or this is like, oh, this would make a new great story. Or I even have one for like D&D campaigns, and it's just like, I had one the other day and I was just like, living dungeon, and that's all I typed. I was just like, living dungeon, and like put it to the side, and I was like, why am I like this?
Monkeys, but with like 12 arms.
Yeah, just random stuff,
okay,
and
cool.
hoping that later in the day you can interpret what it says or interpret what it means.
Yeah, I actually have a novel that I've been trying to write for like a year and a half now. But at one point in the middle of the night, I just had this amazing idea, and so I went over to my computer, and I think I just wrote like ancient ostrich egg, and it meant something at some point in time. But it means nothing now. I have no idea what I was trying to tell myself. And just right beside it, it just says, the best idea. What did you mean, Sleepy Chris?
I did something with the current novel that I'm working on. And it was like, I was trying to figure out like some characters and stuff. And I woke up in the middle of the night. Or it was before I went to sleep, but you're on the edge of sleep, so you're super drowsy. And then you get that idea. And I like wake up, come in here to the computer with one eye open because I'm still trying to sleep, and I just type out and leave it up on my computer like green like Zero/Mega Man and blue the Flash. Like I actually typed out blue the Flash and left it up for me to find it the next morning. And I come the next morning and look at it and go, what?
What? Yeah, but
I eventually
why?
figured it out, but I had to stare at it for like a long time, and I was like, oh yeah, God, I'm stupid. Why wouldn't I type out like a description?
Yeah. Nah, sometimes those notes, you need to make them a little bit, and that's what I've got with the Retroverse, is I've just got this giant file where I'll look back every so often and be like, laser toads, alright, sure. I don't know where I was going with that, but it sounds cool.
Triceratops, but what if it had 4 arms? What if 2 of them weren't real? Go to sleep.
Yeah, that's it. That's the Retroverse right there. You want to know the creative process, that's it.
Well, it's better than like a lot of people will do for like a D&D campaign or something. It's just like, hey, you know those one enemies that were really hard? What if there were 20?
Yeah. What if there's just a boatload of them? That'll be a fun combat. Nope.
Remember that goblin horde that you were having trouble with? What if there was 50?
Yeah. What if there was more horde? Or what if we made them a goblin?
Oh, God. I'm, like, excited to play that, and at the same time... Well, I'm not too worried because I'm going to be the first one of my group to be the DM. Yeah. So, that's going to be me, is be like, you encounter a goblin. What's a goblin? And be like, oh, you will see.
It's your worst nightmare.
So be like, you remember them goos you always kept throwing at us when you were the DM? Yeah. Well, these are smarter and faster.
Yeah. And they've got a sword.
Thank my friend Chris for this.
Exactly.
Let's go back to another listener question, because we're actually doing an interview here.
Yeah.
This is how the last one went, too. It's fine. So, from Twitter, at BHoney21, awesome name, asks... Yeah. Have you considered doing your own monster/adventure supplement besides Retroverse stuff?
I think I'm pretty much stuck with the Retroverse stuff for now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the question, but yeah, I figured it's like Retroverse right now.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'd love to make a bunch of new monsters and stuff that are not Retroverse themed, I feel like a bunch of the monsters I make for my regular stuff already have this sort of kooky weirdness about them that there's really, I guess there's just sort of no reason for me to not make them like Retroverse monsters. Right. Like, you know, in the little preview that I released, you can see we have the Neo Bandits, and they've all got little like clan options and that sort of thing. And that's for the GMs to be able to easily jump in and make something sort of unique with very little effort. And that's the stuff that I would make if I weren't making a Retroverse style one. But since I am making a Retroverse style one, there's no reason... I guess the answer is there's sort of no reason for me to do something that's not Retroverse themed at this point.
Yeah.
Because all of my monsters would just be like that anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like from a creative standpoint, it's like, have you considered doing it? Well, yeah, I'm sure you've like considered it, and I'm sure like ideas pop into your head, but at this point, everything just kind of morphs into Retroverse at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe like sometime down the road when you're not completely and utterly trying to get this launched, maybe, but as of right now.
And a bunch of the monsters that I would make for something that's non-Retroverse would fit within the Retroverse anyway. Like, I think we have putties as one of our thing, and they're like enemies that are like clay constructs, and they're not super powerful, and if you crit on them, you immediately kill them no matter how much health they have, which is a fun mechanic.
Just hit them in their little symbol in their chest. And
exactly. You know what I'm doing here.
Broken putties from Season 2.
Yeah. So, like, that's a monster that I would probably put in, like, a normal encounter, but it fits within the Retroverse as well, so might as well just put it in there, too.
Why not? That actually brings me to another good question. For speaking in the near future, what can people expect from you in the near future? I guess, first off, from Lasers and Liches, what can people expect in the near future? That we kind of already haven't touched on, if anything.
The Kickstarter is the biggest thing, and we're gonna keep on making some fun things for people. I mean, we've been doing cool artwork and stuff that we release every so often, and when I wasn't spending almost all of my time promoting stuff, and I was doing a lot more of the writing, which is I really want to get back to at this point. I'm missing it quite a bit, but when we're doing that, like, I was putting up stuff that I was writing every so often and seeing what people thought of it, and that was fun to have that immediate feedback of like, hey, we're making this thing. What do you think about it? And so because of that, like the Retroverse is as much created by the community as it is by Luis and myself. There's so many ideas that get thrown at me, and not all of them are something that I go with, but there's a bunch of stuff where I like scratch it down in a notepad. Like, yes, this is a good idea. I'm going to tweak it for sure because it doesn't quite fit, but I like the seed here that people are doing.
The tabletop gaming community is one of the most creative communities that I've ever had the privilege to be a part of, and I've only really dipped my toes in it. Well, I'm just not a social person, so give me a little bit of time and maybe we'll get a little bit deeper. But yeah, there's a lot of creative people out there that can help out. So it's always good to get some feedback, and a very supportive community, especially compared to the community that you and I used to be a part of. Yeah, that community is a toxic wasteland. I'd rather. I'm so glad we found like a community of nerds that are not terrible to each other. Yeah, it's nice. It's a lot nicer.
It's really beautiful over here. Like, the grass is so much greener.
So much greener. So that's near future. Let's take a look at a little bit bigger picture. So let's say this really takes off. Takes off exactly how you want it to.
Oh, don't get my hopes up.
I'm just saying we gotta talk about this.
Okay, so we hit the 2 million mark, and I've got to make this Goringer thing.
So what can people expect in the not so near future from Lasers and Liches?
Oh, just a bunch more cool stuff. I'd like to get it to the point where we can have like some shirts and posters and stuff that people can buy if they'd like.
Some swag.
Yeah. Luis created a bunch of Critical Role themed, like he took the Critical Role characters and turned them Retroverse style, and people loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Luis is just an amazing artist. Like, I'm blessed to have him on my side.
You got a hella talented partner with you.
Yeah.
Let me say that. I just want to give a shout out to him right now because I started following him. He started following me, so I could see all his stuff. And man, he's got some drawing, some art chops.
Yeah, the dude is he's just a wizard. What he's doing is straight magic. I don't understand how it works.
No, it's not real. It can't be real. There's no way that's real.
There's no way a human being created this stuff. But I have seen him. I have talked to him. We have done video chats. So ostensibly he exists, but I can't prove it. And every time he releases art, I'm pretty sure it makes me think that he's just some sort of apparition or like ghost AI that is just creating these things. 'Cause there's no way a human could do what he does.
Well, either way, someone's helping you out a lot.
Yeah, right. I'd like to make some swag that people could buy. The Critical Role stuff did really well, and a lot of people asked if they could buy prints of that. And there's some like character ownership issues that we would have to work through, but I'd like to make that a reality and see if we could make that happen. We've got some other ideas for like books and stuff that we'd like to release, some supplements later down the line. But what I'd like to do with Lasers and Liches, like I said, is make it a company that can stand alongside like Kobold Press or Frog God or even, Wizards of the Coast. Make it something where, people know Lasers and Liches. I think that's the ultimate goal there.
Lasers and Liches. The next Paizo.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get there, but, that's the goal. Let's shoot at it, see if we can hit it.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you shoot for that?
Yeah.
That's the best, so.
Just, I guess, if you see the Retroverse and you like it, I love hearing that you're enjoying it. What really makes my day, though, is when I see people sharing it with other people. That makes all the difference in the world because, who knows who? And the fact that we've gotten to the point where, like, Matt Mercer knows who I am at this point and likes my stuff.
That just blow my... Like,
yeah.
I don't even know if I could handle that if that happened to me. Like, if he ever contacted me, I would just be like, nope, I can't do it.
Remember when I said I had a panic attack? Yeah, that's what caused it.
That's what... It's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was a little bit too much for me to actually handle. I know Matt Colville's seen it. He's not going to like shout it out or anything, but he did like give me a retweet or so on some stuff, so he knows that it exists, and he said that it looks pretty cool. I know that like Chris Perkins at this point has followed me on Twitter and has seen it. So there's, but I couldn't have gotten there if people weren't sharing it with other people, And so if you see it and you like it, like share it with anybody that you can, because you never know who's going to like it. You never know who's going to think that this is a cool thing. And that's the word of mouth, as far as like advertisement goes, is the most effective thing we have had. Because I've tried some little advertisement things here or there on like Twitter and Facebook, and they are very ineffective.
Yeah, they're not, like, they're okay. Like, we do the same thing for our podcast. They're okay. They'll snag you some stuff, but word of mouth is...
Yeah.
That's where it's at for stuff like this. For creative stuff like this, that's where it's at, is word of mouth.
Yeah, so if you can't like directly support the Retroverse, even if you can't get in on the Kickstarter or whatever, like, I'm not going to be upset that you weren't able to do that, but if you could just please share it as much as you possibly can, that makes all the difference in the world for me. That's the reason I keep doing it, is because I see people that are like, hey, this is awesome, and then they tell their friends, and their friends are like, hey, this is awesome, and I'm just sitting still at my underwear in front of the computer just smiling like, oh, cool, you like it.
It's always good. Yeah, so that's the thing. If you like something from a creator, listeners, let them know.
Yeah.
At no point does a creator, I don't care how famous they are, I don't care what they've done, at no point do they not appreciate hearing you like something they've done.
Exactly.
And you could be the person to pick their spirits up. Maybe they need to hear it to keep going.
I tell you, I've had some rough days in the past month or so where it's just been one of those, like, I don't know if I can... I get worried, I get worried, is this going to work? Or people really like it? And then I just get a message from someone like, hey, I think this is amazing, and that picks me right back up.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming back and doing this interview again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that we were able to sort of like touch base when we first started and touch base now that we're ramping up to do the Kickstarter thing. I think that's fun.
I'm super excited for your Kickstarter. I'm just glad you've allowed me to be a part of this. 'Cause this has been a wild ride to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm always a fan of creative things, especially when you can tell there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put in it, and it's really easy to tell that you've put everything, your heart and soul into this, and
Yeah.
when someone's put that much into it, it deserves to get out. So
Thank you.
for the 20 listeners that we have or something, I'm happy I can get it at least to them.
So that's, you know
It
what,
needs to get out.
every little bit helps. And just coming on here and talking to you is, it's fun.
It's definitely fun. That's one of the reasons I was glad you were like, I should do another one. It's like, yes, you should. So we can just talk about D&D and Retroverse stuff.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yep.
I could do that forever.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, I'm sure this will not be the last time you're on the show.
Yeah,
So-
hit me up again in like a month or so after the Kickstarter ends and see if I am a pile of tears or a pile of tears for a different reason.
I was about to say, you'll be a pile of tears one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know which way it's going to go, but yeah.
We'll see.
So before we sign off, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping, and then Chris... actually, Chris, why don't you go first? Why don't you pitch some stuff? Throw some dates out, throw some handles.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What do you want them to do?
The Kickstarter starts on April 10th. You can go to lasersandliches.com to find out all the information you need. You can also just follow me on Twitter. It's at Snickelsox, SNICKELSOX. And just be forewarned, I tweet a lot, like a lot. But if you're following me on Twitter, you'll be able to figure out everything that's going on. I'll make sure that people know that my baby is out there for them to throw money at. Which is a real weird thing to say, but
it's a weird sentence you said, but it's
yeah, it's a very strange collection of words I put together. But yeah,
it's a thing you just said. So
yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like if you could share it, go sign up for the newsletter. That gives me some really good hard data on who all is interested in the Retroverse.
Same thing for the people. Just same stuff for the people who are listeners all the time. nerdcultpodcast.com. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/thenerdcult. Every little bit helps. If you like the show, you want to help support us, throw a little bit our way. You can even gain access to our new Dungeons and Dragons play podcast, Tales from the Crits. Other than that, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter. You can email us at nerdcultpodcast@gmail.com. Give us a rating or review on iTunes. That's probably the most helpful thing you can do. Helps people find us. So once again, I'm Tyler Lee. I'm joined by Chris Lock, lead designer of The Retroverse. Thanks again, Chris, for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Stopping by like it's an office. We're in completely different states. But anyways, everybody remember, never don't bubble.
Yeah, stay safe in your brain.
I like that one.
That's my catchphrase. I have a catchphrase now.
Boom! So you can finally have a catchphrase. You're so famous now that you can have a catchphrase.